I love a good ambiguous ending, and Atlanta's was no exception. Spoilers obviously, but the ending leaves us with quite a few options for how to interpret the series. Either the entire show is a dream, or some parts of the show are a dream, or the final episode is a dream, or everything is real, or everything is real but being recounted through Darius' dreams in the tank, meaning some elements are dreamed of, or maybe some other thing I haven't thought of. Clearly there's a lot to choose from, and while I do have my own personal opinion on what happened, I won't be sharing it, and that's because I don't think it matters. If an ending is ambiguous, it's ambiguous for a reason. If it was crucial to the point of the show that the whole show is real, then it would have confirmed everything being real. Or if the show was trying to tell us that everything was a dream, then it would have shown that. But as it stands, we're left with multiple routes that are all equally likely to be true. This makes you wonder, why? What is this ambiguity trying to communicate to us? Why end it like this? It seems that the show is trying to tell us not that it is a dream, but that it could be a dream. This distinction is important, because if the ending did explicitly tell us that the show is a dream, then our understanding would be too literal. But the possibility opening up of it being a dream means that it might as well be a dream. Obviously, you're free to interpret it as being a dream if you want, but the fact that it remains a mere possibility allows us to look at it through a metaphorical lens. The show is metaphorically a dream. For example, take a look at the Popeyes ad at the beginning of this episode. On the one hand, you could argue it's quite suspicious that the sushi restaurant was right across a Popeyes on the same day Darius had seen a Popeyes commercial, possibly hinting that the entire sushi restaurant incident was something Darius dreamed of because of the commercial he had seen. On the other hand, this is kind of inherent to all TV shows. There's always little conveniences like this which help make episodes feel more cohesive. This illustrates how Atlanta isn't necessarily a dream, but dream-esque. Of course, the idea of Atlanta being a dream was thought of long before the finale came out, and that was because of the surrealness of the whole show. It's kind of its whole appeal. The most suspicious example is in episode 1, when Darius looks for a dog and says the whole scene is familiar. It's not like this is inexplicable without it being a dream. Darius could have just been tripping really hard, but the narrative purpose of this is to reinforce the idea that Atlanta could, and thus might as well, be a dream. This idea goes further when you consider that Darius had tank sessions every week, just like Atlanta dropping new episodes every week. Again, doesn't necessarily suggest the show is a dream, but does demonstrate that the show is metaphorically one. However, it's not as if the final episode was our introduction to dreams in the show. Of course, I'm referring to the recurring dream Earn has about hands. Season 1 episode 1, Earn dreams about swimming in a lake and being warned about hands dragging him down. Season 3 episode 1, Earn has a dream within a dream of hands from Lake Lanier pulling down someone. Season 4 episode 3, some weird psychic knows about this recurring dream and asks Earn how he's sure whether the hands will hurt him. Now in the season 3 dream, these hands were representative of generational trauma. The black town being flooded under this lake becomes corpses haunting the area, and thus shows how the ghosts of the past continue to manifest as systemic issues that affect us to this day. However, while this is what the hands motif represents here, I don't think it's always about something as specific as systemic racism. I think it's about Earn's feelings of powerlessness that stem from his abuse as a child. His fear of systemic racism is only one expression of this feeling. We see in season 4 episode 2 that Earn's trauma is evoked and he feels powerless when people's racism brings him down. This is why the psychic in episode 3 questions the idea of the hands being harmful. It was essentially his advice for Earn to surrender himself and not feel the need to control the world, which is sort of what he learned in season 4 episode 2, being told that he can't base his motivations on spite. I can imagine the incident in this episode with the racist airport lady holding back Earn made him feel especially powerless, because this is after Earn has pretty much made it, after he should have become more secure from this kind of discrimination, after he became white. That's what I think the very final scene of season 3 means. Season 3 was largely about the characters climbing the class ladder and becoming white due to that, which is why Earn receiving an order intended for white Earn was the perfect way to end it. I'm not sure what's happening here on a literal level. It was likely just a mix-up because of the same name, or maybe it was a dream, or maybe this was real but happened before season 3, which is what made Earn dream about white Earn. But regardless, thematically speaking, this seems to show a merging of the two, of Earn becoming white Earn.
With enough blood and money, anyone can be white.
Considering Earn dreamed of white Earn, this opens up the possibility that white Earn's other appearances are dreams. This means that, at least on some metaphorical level, white Earn likely represents a side of Earn. If I had to guess, it would be the side of Earn that feels too white.
Were you told as a child you talk white?
Sometimes.
Must have made you feel separate.
White Ern's white guilt in the reparations episode could be a manifestation of how Ern feels ashamed of being white. By contrast, at the airport in season 4, Ern feels insecure about facing racism despite his newfound whiteness. We see this inner turmoil resolve itself in season 4 episode 7 when Ern is able to cross the river on his trip with Van and Lottie. He's no longer scared of being pulled down. He has surrendered control to the world. This episode also has Ern finally be committed to Van, which is why it's fitting that this is also the episode where he resolves his issues relating to control. He has replaced his motivation for success, going from spite to doing what's best for his family. Now, the reason why I yapped about all this is because it provides an important parallel to Darius in the final episode. The water motif as it relates to Ern is crucial because Darius is also in a water tank. If Ern's whole journey could be / might as well be in Darius's dream, then his fear of drowning could also represent Darius's fear of drowning in the tank. In other words, his fear of losing himself to his escapism. One could use this to interpret the ending pessimistically. Since Ern overcame his fear of drowning, Darius also overcame his fear of being lost in the tank and thus went deeper into his coping mechanism. However, I don't buy this because even by the end of the series, some part of Darius is still aware that he needs to end his escapism.
Alright, boy. I don't want you in here. I want you out there. Have fun. Go see your people.
In fact, the vodka in the London dream could even be a representation of this. The vodka looks like water but is actually intoxicating, so that's a possible sign that Darius is aware that his water tank sessions are intoxicating and are a harmful coping mechanism that distorts his perception of reality. So would it make sense if Ern overcoming his fear was a way to represent Darius eliminating his concerns about his tank sessions when he still clearly feels concerned about it? So I think it's more likely that the connection between Darius and Ern's water issues exists because of how Ern eventually learns that the hands won't drag him down. In other words, Darius is given hope that he doesn't necessarily need to be lost in his escapism, that this isn't the only way to be. This is what leads to his growth in the final episode, learning to cherish his friends instead of staying in the tank. Because yes, regardless of whether Judge Judy was thick or not, I think that the ending is optimistic and points to Darius overcoming his issues. If Darius is in reality, then he learns to cherish the time with his friends instead of escaping in his tank. If Darius is in a dream, then he still learns to cherish the time with his friends instead of escaping in the tank. The ambiguity of his expression captures this perfectly, that mixture of joy and stress, because either he's glad that his moment with his friends is real and is stressed that he has to face consequences for stealing a car, or he's glad that he doesn't have to face consequences for stealing a car and is stressed that his moment with his friends is fake. Even if it's a dream, even if it's fake, the fact that he'd be stressed out seems to point to the fact that he has realized the value of being with his friends. After all, Donald Glover said that even if Atlanta is all a dream, it doesn't matter because we still experienced it. So if we apply that to Darius, the fact that he's in a dream wouldn't change it still being a learning experience for him. The ambiguity reinforces this optimism because of how it blurs the line between dream and reality. By associating reality with dreams, it's like a way of saying that the character's dreams have come true. Not too different from how Lottie was miraculously able to catch the mythical snipe in the same episode where Ern and Van were able to make the dreams a reality. Considering everyone's character arcs are possibly and metaphorically within his dream, it would make perfect sense if Darius's journey of reaching self-actualization was reflected in the respective journeys of Ern, Al, and Van. This is best exemplified through Thomas from the Goofy documentary. He serves as a cautionary tale for our characters. He gives into his spite, never finds his true identity within his success, and abandons his family. The exact opposite conclusions of Ern, Al, and Van. If we brought Darius into the equation, then Thomas being lost in his Goofy persona would be a parallel to Darius getting lost in his dreams. Considering everyone else took the opposite route that Thomas took, it stands to reason that Darius would do the same and ground himself in reality. Or alternatively, you could look at this more pessimistically and say that Darius is a contrast to everyone else because everybody's journeys made them leave Atlanta whereas he stayed in Atlanta, which is possibly a sign of stagnancy. I can see why someone may see it this way, but I don't believe this to be the case. I don't see why the show would set up all these themes relating to making miracles come true and have every character show positive growth only to turn that around at the very last minute. Most importantly though, while he didn't leave Atlanta the city, he still left Atlanta. He left the show. If the whole show is a metaphor for Darius's tank dreams, then that means the show ending is representative of Darius's tank sessions ending too. The fact that the show ended is a sign that he is starting to be on the path towards change and move on from his dreams. Naturally, this doesn't stop at Darius. This also extends to us. Because really, what is the point of the last episode episode implying the show is dream-esque when that was already clear throughout the show? What's the point of making Darius the core of the show? It's because it's a way for the show to go meta and have Darius's arc extend to us as well. Darius getting deeper and deeper into his dreams and getting lost in them is possibly supposed to represent us getting deeper into the show. The reason the show ends early for us is because it means we should stop using the show as escapism the way Darius is using his tank sessions as escapism. It's a call for us to take what we learned from the show and have that new understanding enrich our lives rather than merely exist as consuming a television show. I personally couldn't ask for a better ending. Thanks for watching.